that time, the template had been Star Trek. Episodes. No one was allowed to post pictures, no one was allowed to do anything. I know that sounds like heresy, ridiculous today, but at
Tell me more about that campaign. Like streaming the Lion King trailer for 30 minutes to watch a 45-second,
Okay,
you guys ready?
I'm ready. When you guys are, can we restart?
I think one of the challenges and opportunities with a new graduate, somebody that enters the industry, is they're digital natives. They grew up in the digital world and don't necessarily appreciate what your ancestors had to go through in order to get you here. But I think just understanding that it wasn't always, social media wasn't always available. There wasn't always the opportunity for creating viral and shareable sites and shareable moments and memes, and people couldn't watch video on their phones. We're in a world that provides that for you, but what I would hope they would understand is that you've got to always be ahead of the curve, and that what it is today is not what it's going to necessarily be in 10 years. And so we've saw that happen just in the last 20 years in terms of how things have evolved, and I think they have to hopefully understand that don't be complacent, because there's going to be some other wave of technology or innovation that's going to come along, and you want to be able to ride that wave.
If you could commission Hollywood in Pixels to preserve one specific aspect of today's digital marketing landscape for future generations, what would it be and why?
I would encourage Hollywood in Pixels to continue to preserve the innovation that has taken place within the digital community. The digital marketers are really at the leading forefront of just how to market and create brands and create movies and open films, and those moments, what they do with those campaigns is something that people beyond the film industry can learn from. And I think the more that they do that, the more that they capture and archive those kind of milestones will be something that's incredibly valuable for everybody. Impact that the digital community was having in marketing, and the need to preserve that, and she kept growing and kept doing more with it to enhance and build from that. And I think that's something that we can all learn from, is that just keep at it.
Like a local position, and we're not really like in an environment where we're like on Google Ads or stuff like that, or like on Google Maps, because it's more of a private studio. So it's a private collection of instruments that's been around for 20 years. Mm-hmm. My partner John, he was an intern at a very famous studio that used to be Can-Am. That's where like Guns N' Roses, Aerosmith, all those bands recorded at, and we're right next door to them. So there's a lot of historical value in that parking lot, but the same thing, like for me, it's more about putting resources together for the local communities. Because myself, like I went to Canoga Park High School, and then in that high school there's a program called CAMP, and it was about entertainment and audio and digital media. And that's kind of where I got most of my knowledge about like how we're doing things today, setting up a team, getting marketing done, like finding ways of how can we push a project or a product out. And I had friends at that time that wanted to do music, but they didn't have that experience and they didn't have that knowledge. So I gathered them together and I said, let's figure it out and let's find ways of like putting all our resources together to like make the studio happen. And now I'm at the recording studio, and that's kind of where we're at. I'm working with CJ and some of the members from Dakar to kind of like figure out how can I either help to maintain the space or like find my way into other positions. But yeah, like that's kind of what we got going on.
And I don't know, there's and then work to get your product out in front of them. So you've got the kind of the high school music connection. Like, can you tap into that so that all the people that might be in the music industry from that network can let them know what you offer? But they got to start someplace in terms of what it is that you're taking out to market. And having a digital presence doesn't hurt, because that's how people discover things. So it's like you search for, where's a recording studio? How can I get some time? Who's got instruments? Who's got the backup? And that it doesn't cost a whole lot to just have a site and then try to optimize it for search. You don't have to necessarily pay for Google Ads or anything, but having a presence at least gets you in the conversation. So I don't know. It's
like the most I have right now is like basically like our Instagram. That's like my main digital asset right there. And I have a website, but it's the same thing as like you know, like for the website, like, I have to invest money in it to like either like maintain it and get clients to go to it. But that's the whole thing too. Is like the position that I'm in with that studio is like we're a private studio, so I can't really post like where our address is. I could post like where's like our whereabouts, but
yeah, so
at school and stuff like that. But then when it comes to like the actual recording studio, that's where it becomes a whole issue because my whole thing or our whole thing is be able to service the underground artists, but because they're underground artists, they don't have money, they don't have, you know, like that type of capital. So my job is to find them ways to get them paid so they can get money to invest back in the studio. And it's like
it's a challenge.
it's my own like, you know, invisible cups, you know, where I'm like setting it up, but it's like it's either we're selling studio hours or we're selling like a package to develop artists, or, you know, like I find it a way of
Everything, all of it.
Admittedly,
What I would
but
say
go.
is that there are two pieces here. One is your business model itself, and the other is this kind of marketing and communications and awareness. I have some ideas, but I would also say I've got a ton of MBA students who might be, you know, just as a thought experiment, interested in coming up with some additional ideas for you, right? There are second years who are part of the student club that I mentor, and then there's also, we have student fellows who are doing research and other things. But like this seems like the kind of thing, especially given what you just said about social, where there's some interesting opportunities around how you make sure that you've set up your infrastructure so that the underground artists that are, you know, promoting themselves are also tagging you and promoting you as well while they do that. There are other things too in terms of how do you create, you know, network effects. So how do you build in an incentive so that people who use the studio find other people who will then also use the studio, right? We can talk about, I think unfortunately there's no like 72-hour solution. But I think
No, your students would be probably ideal for coming up with something for that.
Right.
It's a great kind of challenge. to
it's
them
not
to
quite the
tackle.
same thing as like what we're doing, we're releasing films, but I think there's some things.
And I got 160-second, Lisa. We're trying to figure out what digital tools, could be AI tools, generative AI tools, could people start to look at as potentially default things that will become available for them to start researching and using by this time next year in this space.
But when you say AI tools, are you talking about for content creation? Are you talking about for marketing? Are you talking about
for all of it,
analytics?
for creating the finished project, from ideation to delivering
So then what I would say is wait till after I host a panel on that topic tomorrow at Variety's Entertainment Tech Summit, and then we can talk about that.
because that's what everybody, because I represent a lot of community colleges and so 4 years are trying to figure out where they can shift.
The impact that the digital community was having in marketing